Did you fart? Who farted? Somebody farted. Okay, we are just giving Jules a dog wash. This washing the dog thing is more of Monet's thing.
Lame.
Do you like doing this?
Sometimes, not so much.
Sometimes?
Sometimes. Not all the time.
Can you help getting in? All this time I thought Monet would wash the dog because she likes to wash the dog. I didn't realize it was because she thinks that I would not do a good job at washing the dog. I mean, she's not wrong. Maybe I should just pull my weight around a little bit more when it comes to the dog. Did you fart? Who farted? Somebody farted. How long do you think Mommy will be?
80 minutes.
How many minutes?
80 minutes.
80, like 80? Like 80 minutes? Not 18, but 80?
18.
Oh, 18, okay.
It's one, two.
Today is day 251, and we're looking at the first half, or the first 7 chapters of the prophet Zechariah. 7 chapters might sound a little daunting, but they're not that long of chapters. There's a lot of details in these chapters, but really what is happening, the overall deal, is God is revealing to Zechariah all of these visions, and these visions are meant to show the future prosperity of Jerusalem, of his people. Like God is just communicating to his people through the prophet Zechariah, through visions, that it's going to be good in the future for them. We are going to rock the whirly popper, or the whirly pop, for the first time tonight. Before we actually use the whirly pop, it has to season, so it's cooling off from the seasoning process. So while that's happening, let's talk about today's passages. I've already shared a good chunk of really what today is all about, but what I want to do real quick is just share with you briefly what all the visions are, and then what I think the visions, really how they're summed up in today's reading, really in 2 ways. Chapter 1 shows us the vision of the horsemen and the vision of the 4 horns and the craftsmen that crush those horns. Chapter 2 is all about the vision of the guy with the measuring line that goes out to measure Jerusalem. Chapter 3 is the vision of Joshua as the high priest, who is talked about later in our reading for today. Chapter 4 is the vision of the golden lampstand and the 2 olive trees that are beside it. Chapter 5 details the vision of the flying scroll, as well as the basket that has the woman in it that represents wickedness that these 2 other women would carry off to the land of Shinar. Chapter 6 is the vision of the 4 chariots and how they go in different directions, surveying and really just examining and watching over the earth. Then we have the crown that's put into the temple, and then chapter 7 wraps up with this call for justice and mercy. But like I said, all these visions, I believe, can be summed up in these two things that we see in today's reading. And the first is in Zechariah 4, verse 6. It says, "Then he said to me, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts." The reason why that encapsulates these visions is because these visions very much are depicting the prosperity of God's people. But part of what brings about the prosperity of God's people is only what God himself can do. It's not by man's strength, it's not by good ideas, it's not by something we can muster within ourselves as humans, but it directly comes from God himself. Then in chapter 6, when it talks about the crown in the temple, it talks about this branch coming out. And when we read about this branch, it very much is a depiction of Christ. It points us to Jesus. And this is key in understanding how God is going to define prosperity for his people. Prosperity wasn't them getting a bunch of stuff and, being in the golden age necessarily of their empire in terms of materialistic things, but their prosperity was wrapped up in Jesus himself. That it's better for the Messiah to come through his people in a difficult time in their history than for them to be in some kind of golden age as a kingdom, but for the Messiah not to come. So the Messiah, Jesus himself, he is the definition of prosperity. And that's true for us today, that Jesus is our definition of prosperity, that whenever we are trying to understand prosperity and what it means in our lives, we always go back to Jesus. If you are a follower of Jesus and you have nothing in life, you are more prosperous than someone who is not following Jesus but has everything the world could offer them. All right, let's go check on that whirly pop. I'm just going to kind of eyeball this thing. There's yours. Here, cheers. Clink. It's good, huh? High five. Good job for making popcorn.